Hello, welcome, good morning, everyone, to another episode of Amazon Ads Raw Daily. My name is Alex, and today is most likely Monday, and it's a bank holiday in the US and in Germany, so this episode is pre-recorded. Um, and we're gonna talk about today. What are we talking about? So there was another day, another update on the Amazon Ads API, and this one is a little bit bigger, I would say. So we'll deep dive into the new tactical recommendation API. This is a beta and a new API endpoint for Amazon Ads API, and a very interesting one. We'll talk about that in a bit. But before we talk about that, I have another update to talk about. So there has been a update on sponsored brand campaigns for the budget rules. For those of you who are not aware of what a budget rule is, on campaign level for sponsored brands and sponsored products, you can apply a so-called budget rule where you can set either schedule or performance-based budget increases for these campaigns. And the new update to the sponsored brand budget rule is that you can choose in the performance type. So you have to select type of budget rule is performance based. Obviously, then you have to select a date range. Either it's a custom date range or it's a recommended event. And then you have to say how often should this budget rule run, daily or weekly. And then you can choose as a performance metric. Before that, it was only efficiency based, so return on advertising spending or 1 over ACOS. But now there's two new options you can choose from. It's top of search impression share and percent of new to brand sales. So these two new options allow you to now increase your budget if you have a top of search impression share higher or lower than your given point you want to set as threshold, or the percent of sales coming from new to brand. The problem I have with budget rules personally, and that's my opinion on the budget rule, is you can only set to increase. So over the long run, your campaign will only experience increase in budgets depending on how do you set it, schedule based, performance based, or whatever. For me, a well-rounded rule would also have the option to decrease the budget. So if my, let's say, top of search impression share is, I don't know, lower than 10% or higher than 90%, I don't know, then I want to increase. But if it drops, then I want to decrease. So if I would have the option to increase and decrease, to set this rule in a way that if my efficiency is high, increase the budget, and if my efficiency is low, decrease the budget, then this budget rule would make tons of sense, and I would love to apply it on lots of campaigns. But why there's only the option to increase it, I'm not a huge fan of that. Finished. Next topic, tactical recommendation API overview. And I will quickly read through the announcement and then we'll talk about a few of these things. But it's bigger than I can cover in this episode because I'll try to be short, 10 minutes max of your time, inspirational, and you'll have to figure the rest out yourself or wait for another episode. So the new release is providing campaign recommendations across sponsored product brands and display. Partners and advertisers can use this API to fetch targeted recommendations to manage campaign more efficiently. Recommendations come in form of a prepackaged campaign setting changes suggested by Amazon Ads machine learning algorithms or account management teams. So it's coming from the algorithms of Amazon or from the account management team. That's important. Based on diagnosis of advertiser catalog and campaigns, and so on and so forth. Each recommendation details the campaign setting changes needed to execute the recommendations. These changes span across campaign, blah, 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 and so on. I'll talk about this. here's three examples what they are giving, and then we talk about the actual list of all the recommendations which are available. For example, increasing budget for campaigns that are performing well but might soon run out of budget. That's a similar. That's within Ad Console called the budget feature. There's a tab for that, and there's even a downloadable report in the reporting section where you would see on your campaigns for your for your chosen time frame the estimated missed of sales, the estimated missed of impressions on certain campaigns because you had a too low budget. So Amazon is doing a lot around the budgets. We have the budget rules. We just had a month ago the option to opt in for campaigns for a daily budget increase of 100% based on Amazon algorithm. And now there's the recommendation API, which could also recommend you to increase the budget, and then you can just apply these recommendations based on the API. The other example is, for example, adding ASINs. So Amazon sees a campaign and then it says, well, maybe we should add these ASINs from your portfolio also to this campaign. A third one is creating new campaigns with ASINs that have high retail readiness scores but are not advertised. So if you're not advertising the ASIN, Amazon would recommend you, hey, create a sponsored product campaign for this. And then you could apply it and then it's created. So this is the announcement. And now let's talk a little bit about the recommendations type and what they mean. I'll not go through all of them. You can find it. I will link it in the description, actually. And you will find all that stuff. I'll give you a few highlights. So obviously it can create new campaigns. We can change the budgets, but we can also change the bidding strategies within the campaign. We can change placements for products and top of search. It even can change the status of a campaign, which I'm not 100% sure if Amazon would also pause campaigns, but it could basically re-enable campaigns, maybe also pausing. New campaign bidding rule. So it could create a bidding rule based on specific campaigns. So sponsored products campaigns also have the new optionality to create, to run the campaign on Amazon bidding rule. This is a recommendation option here, new budget rule. So Amazon could recommend, hey, add a budget rule to this campaign. So we talked about budget rule in the beginning. And then you could say, yep, apply. So most of this stuff is either create new or update. So I'm not talking about both options. So budget rule, changing the ad group status. So basically there's lots of stuff about changing the status for keywords, targetings, ad groups, campaigns, and so on and so forth. There's even stuff, and this is very interesting here, where it's about new negative keywords. Create new, description here says, create new negative keywords to reduce unwanted traffic. There's a similar thing for create new negative product targets to reduce unwanted traffic. And as I said, there's not only the new thing, but also the update thing. And there is a update status of negative keywords based on performance. And that's where it gets wild. So I have a campaign, I put a negative keyword into that campaign. And now Amazon gives me a recommendation to update the status of this negative keyword. A negative keyword can only have basically two status, 1 or 0. It's a binary optionality you have there. Either you have it added to your campaign and then it's active, or you don't have it added to your campaign or ad group and then it's not active. So it's either 1 or 0. If I've chosen to add it to a campaign, I probably had a good reason for it. And Amazon could now eventually give me a recommendation that we should remove this negative keyword. And that's mind-blowing, because what it means is over time, let's assume your account is not a year old, but 10 years old, and you're dealing with negative keywords in a manner like agencies would do or advanced sellers. So you go into your campaign regularly, you check your search terms, and then you add negative keywords which are unwanted, not converting, and so ever. What it creates over time is a huge list of negative keywords which haven't performed at a given time when you added them as a negative keyword. But over time, your product might change, the price change, the reviews change, how people perceive it, the relevancy of what you have negativated could be changing as well over time. So things you have negativated last year, 2 years, 3 years ago in a campaign could now be worthwhile to not be negativated. That's my personal opinion. So and there's not a good way of actually finding out if that's true or not. In order to find it out, you would need to remove the negative keyword from a given campaign and test it in an own campaign, or let it run in this where you had it negativated, to see if it's still true that you have negativated it 3 years ago for a reason, and this reason is still valid today. But with this API recommendation, Amazon would kind of connect the dots, which we are not seeing as advertisers, and they could tell us, hey, look, your negative keyword here, you should update the status and you should remove it from a campaign. And that's very interesting, and that's where I get excited. Not because I would blindly kind of add all the recommendations to my accounts. That's not what I think. I believe lots of the recommendations from Amazon are not recommendable for all the sellers. If you have a certain campaign structure, some recommendations don't even make any sense. So you have to take these recommendations with some caution and so on and so forth. Obviously, you need to be educated about what it means and what it does and so on and so forth. But it's very interesting that they are now having this recommendation on this specific one. And there's more stuff, adding new product target, new products, adding new keywords, changing keyword status, changing keyword bits, changing audience targeting, and so on and so forth. So lots of stuff happening with this API. I recommend you to check out this documentation, see what it means, and then eventually you'll learn and see if it's valuable for you. And with that, thank you all very much. Have a wonderful start into your week, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.